Scott's testimony, if I can find that someplace here, I'd just like to give that to you. I get a little bit lost in this stuff. Crotcher's testimony. This is what he found when he went there. The next year, 3 other men and myself returned to explore the cave, opening further. We received permission from the Jordanian military and the Franciscan headquarters in Amman, then drove to Pisgah. After crawling down through a small hole opening, we came to the man-made wall described by Fuderer, who had been there before. After removing some of the stones, we found a long passage lined with burial tombs on each side. Another 300 feet down this corridor, which was 5 to 7 feet tall and about 5 feet wide, we came to an approximated 10 by 12 room that was broken out of one corner of the wall. The Ark was sitting on the floor of this room. It looked just like a box. It seemed to have movable doors in the front and a 3-inch apron around the top. It had a crisscross type design on it and is made out of some type of metal that looks like gold. I measured the box, but didn't touch it. Not out of fear of being struck dead, but out of reverence and respect of God. I wasn't there to open the box. I was only sent there to find it. Now, if this next year God sends me to open it, I will open it. I'm not going to do anything unless I am sent. I took some flash photos of the Ark. Not all of them turned out, but those that did give good detail of what the box looks like. I have some questions. What are the Jews waiting for? Where are the cherubims and the covering veil and the poles? I think they forgot something. Is this Yahweh's Ark of the Covenant, or is this Satan's counterfeit? Let's look at the prophetic study now, okay? There has been a lot of speculation as to what happened to the Ark of the Covenant. There are some that think that it was taken by the Judahites into the Babylonian captivity. I don't believe this at all. I do not believe that it was melted down and destroyed, as some people believe, because it's mentioned in the book of Revelation. Okay? I do not believe that it is in the ruins of the temple which is under the Arab mosque. I do not believe that it is buried in the sands of Egypt like the portrayers of the Raiders of the Lost Ark said it is or was. I do not believe that it is in a cave on Mount Pisgah, as 2nd Maccabees would lead us to believe. 2nd Maccabees is a book of the Apocrypha, which refers in some way to this event. Since Jeremiah was instructed to take the Ark and the other sacred objects from the temple during the Babylonian siege, which is recorded in 2nd Maccabees 2, 4 through 7, we know that Jeremiah did this because Jacob's stone is one of those sacred objects. And we know that Jacob's stone is where? In the coronation chair in England. My wife and I were over there 3 years ago, and it was quite a great thrill to stand a couple feet away from this coronation chair and look under the seat and see Jacob's stone there. Which proves to me that Jeremiah indeed took it when he left Jerusalem. Jeremiah, along with Tephi, I am told that's the way to pronounce it, Tephi and others took these precious objects from Jerusalem. Jeremiah went from there to Egypt. That's record in Scripture, right? He went from there to Egypt. Then he and his party went to Spain, and apparently Tia Tephi's sister stopped off at Spain and married into the royal family there. And the others traveled on to, where did they go? To the Isles afar off, to Northern Ireland, to Tara. There, Tia Tephi married the king and reestablished the royal Israelite line there. And that's what we have learned before, isn't it? We know the grave site of Tia Tephi is there. There is a monument to Jeremiah there. So apparently he was there also. We know the stone of Jacob was taken to Tara, and then on to Iona, and then on to Scone in Scotland, from whence we got the term the Stone of Scone, which was then taken finally to Westminster Abbey and put underneath the coronation chair. But the words of Yahweh said the ark would be in the midst of his people. And my question to you tonight is, where is the ark? In the Bard's historic records, we read another account. Jeremiah was to take the ark and place it in a cave where Moses was given his vision before, he was not permitted to go into the promised land. But we know that Jeremiah was to take the ark and place it in a cave where Moses was given his vision, or where Moses was given his vision of. Makes a difference, doesn't it? Here are the words of Tia Tephi as recorded in the Bard's words. And I want to read these words. Listen carefully. However, hereafter dimly my eyes should the friend of the Lord behold, she was speaking of Jeremiah, he thought not pleasure of greetings or tables of wine and meat, or to listen to myrrh or music, or sit in the highest seat, or beheld me in the marriage garments, but set his feet in the way of the Lord, where he, the Lord, led him. This only, therefore, I say, that when he had left Pinswale, drawn nigh to the land of whence, he parted his ships from amongst us, and none knew whither he went. With the sacred things of the temple, and none may utter their tale, for sailors were men of Ham or Dan, the last whom the temple veil should leave in the dark. And these that set sail on the western trek with the prophet passed into the night, and never out of night came back. Of the sacred things I know not. The Lord say not to discern the place of his habitation, whereunto my son shall yearn, in the days that dawn hereafter. But lo, ye have seen the stone. The stone of the corner remaineth. It shall not be left alone. Notice that the stone remained where Tia Tephi was, in Ireland. But notice that she had mentioned the sacred things of the temple. These did not remain, but accompanied Jeremiah on his western trek. She said, of the sacred things I know not. Well, she knew about the stone. She also said about the stone, it shall not be left alone. Could this mean that the stone would remain in the presence of his people, but that the other sacred things would be left alone, not to be revealed until the time when his temple would again be among his people, the real temple not built with hands? Without going into a great long history of the world between the years of 582, 583 BC to the time of Christopher Columbus, let us acknowledge that there was commerce between the Old World and the New World, and that South America and North America were known to the sailing mariners of that time, the Phoenicians, the Danites, and whoever. We know that white man was in America before the time of Christ. What else do we know? I told you I approached this subject with great fear, really. But God leads. And when I came here and arrived yesterday, somebody looked at the program and saw that I was going to speak on the Ark of the Covenant. And apparently this is a rather warm issue with some of you. And I went to the restaurant last night and to have something to eat, and I sat down with some friends, and it turns out that the person I was eating with knows so much more about the Ark of the Covenant than I do and has done a fantastic study on this. And I'm going to ask her, Valerie Olin, to come up and take you now. I've told you that we've had commerce to the New World. Now she's going to pick it up here, and I don't know just how far she's going to take us, but I think it's going to be extremely interesting. Valerie?
Several years ago, there was a series of books that were written by a very prominent American archaeologist, Barry Fell. You may know the name. Some of these books included Saga America and America BC. In these books, he proved conclusively that Columbus was not the first by any means. Our country is very rich in pre-Columbian history. The artifacts are there. There is, for instance, a Decalogue in New Mexico and another one in Ohio of the Ten Commandments. It translates perfectly into the verbiage we know in the 20th chapter of Exodus. It was written in Hebrew Phoenician. In these books, Mr. Fell proves that the Mississippi River was a major trade route for the early Hebrew Phoenician people, the early Welsh people, the early Irish, the Celtic people. This trade route has many picture rocks. If you go along the riverbanks, you will find picture rocks. They are clues to where Jeremiah went. The Arkansas River is also plays a role in ancient historical meaning. It was another major trade route. And Mr. Fell also proves conclusively to that effect. It would have been quite logical for the prophet Jeremiah to go up the Mississippi and up to the Arkansas River and arrive at its conclusion, which was Mount Nebo. And you all know that Mount Nebo plays a prominent role in the scriptures. I'm going to give you some clues as to where the Ark is. It's really before your very eyes, and it's so obvious that we wonder why we didn't think of it a long time ago. It blew my mind when I finally realized where it is. I'm going to get right to the point. In the state of Arkansas, the only state in the Union that has a red river, a white river, and a blue river. Those are the colors of Israel. Those are sacred colors. Arkansas is a land of many caves. Jeremiah was told in 2 Maccabees 2:4 to take the Ark of the Covenant into a cave that would have been the logical conclusion of the vision which Moses had in the 34th chapter of Deuteronomy. When I read that chapter, I used to think, hey, that was the old land of Palestine. No more. Let me read you a couple of things that would discount that being the old land of Palestine. He's talking here about going up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah that is over against Jericho. This is the first verse of Deuteronomy 34. The land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah unto the utmost sea. What is the utmost sea? In another translation, it's known as the Western Sea. The Pacific Ocean, anyone? Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Is there an utmost sea in the old land of Palestine? Anything that we consider really vast. The clinching material here is in verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. The seed of Israel is vast. We know that the old land of Palestine would never contain all of our people. This is a prophetic statement. And we're not to be boxed in by that little mini-state over there. The prophecy here in Deuteronomy 34 is something more vast than just a little bit of a strip of land along the Mediterranean. When you put this chapter together with the verses in 2 Maccabees 2:4, you can only come to one conclusion. Jeremiah was told to take the Ark of the Covenant to the wilderness. That was the name by which our nation was known before it became America. It was called the wilderness. It fits like parts of a jigsaw puzzle. The area around Mount Magazine in ancient times, and really not quite so ancient times, was known as the Blue Canopy. There is a map. I have tried to get a copy of this map, and I'll tell you about what's going on in Arkansas in a little while. There's a big cover-up going on there. There was this old Indian oil map, and it designated the area around Mount Magazine as the Blue Canopy. What do we read in the 4th chapter of Numbers, verse 6? That when the Ark of the Covenant was in transit, a blue veil, a cloth wholly of blue, was placed over the Ark. Is it so far-fetched to think that the area in Arkansas known as the Blue Canopy got its name because of that blue veil over the Ark of the Covenant? There is a tribe of Indians known as the Arikara. It doesn't take too much imagination to see that that could mean Ark carrier. This tribe of Indians today inhabit mostly certain areas in Nebraska and South Dakota. They have virtually forgotten their ancestry. But this particular tribe, contemporary to the prophet Jeremiah, in all probability, were the Ark carriers that helped him carry the Ark to the spot designated in 2 Maccabees 2:4. The state of Arkansas has many Indian legends. The Indians always told the explorers, when they asked about gold, where do we find the gold, they said, it's up there in those mountains. There you will find the gold treasure. What gold were they talking about? Not gold that's being mined, but the Ark of the Covenant. They refer to it as the object, the treasure with emeralds round about. This comes out of Revelation 4, verse 3, where we're told about the throne of God having emeralds round about. This was not fanciful, mythological statements on the part of these Indians. They knew what was buried in that mountain. When Christ was crucified, the veil in the temple was rent in two, from top to bottom, right down the middle. It was torn at the 25th loop. Remember, in the tabernacle there were 50 loops, 50 states of this union. We'll never see Puerto Rico as the 51st state, believe me. When that veil was rent in two, there was a great symbolism there, a great connection, because Arkansas was the 25th state to be admitted to this union. How about that? In the museum in Little Rock, Arkansas, there was at one time a skeleton of a white man. He was a seaman. He was dated at approximately 580 B.C. This would be totally within the time frame of Jeremiah's entry into the wilderness. And it's interesting, I'll get into this in a little while, but the museum authorities now deny that skeleton was ever in the museum. I've encountered a total hush-hush campaign. It's not surprising. Mount Magazine is the only mountain area in the state of Arkansas that has never been made into a state park. I find this interesting and very significant. I think it is God ordained. It is known by the forest rangers as a wilderness. I do not believe it will ever be made into a state park at least prior to the time that the Ark of the Covenant is located. I find it very significant that in the northwest part of the state of Arkansas, there are a number of communities with scriptural names or names that are scripturally derived. Danville, from the tribe of Dan. Mount Levi, Jerusalem. Mount Nebo, Dardanelle. That's an interesting one. Darda was one of the offspring of Judah. Last year I gave a talk on the Ark of the Covenant, and a friend of mine was extremely interested. He went down to Arkansas. He drove up Mount Magazine. His car radiator boiled over in the process, but he had a very good view when he got to the top. On the way up, he heard 3 distinct claps of thunder. There was no rain, not even a hint that it was going to rain, but 3 peals of thunder. Other people have had the very same experience. Is this a manifestation of God's thunder? Or could it possibly be a discharge from the massive voltage in the Ark of the Covenant? Remember, we're dealing with tremendous electrostatic potential. There are many hot springs in the state of Arkansas. I have speculated that it's possible that these springs are being powered by the Ark of the Covenant. People are healed when they go and take the baths in Little Rock, for instance, hot springs, and so on, wherever these springs are located. Is it possible that there is tremendous electrostatic potential in that water being fed through as a result of the Ark of the Covenant? When your body cells, which are electric cell batteries, we are electrical, biological beings in an electrochemical environment, is it possible that these waters would improve your cell oscillations and therefore you would see a healing of whatever condition you might have had when you came to those waters. There is a cover-up in the state of Arkansas pertaining to these matters. I've encountered it. I have encountered it with the Department of Parks, who tell me there is no such thing as the Blue Canopy area. They have never heard of it. They tell me that the skeleton in the museum in Little Rock was never there. The historian in the county in which Mount Magazine is located tells me she never heard of Blue Canopy or the Indian oil map. I know these things exist. There is a researcher out on the West Coast who has gone into this extensively. He has some of this documentation. It does indeed exist. These people in the state are covering this up. They do not want you to know about your heritage in the state of Arkansas. This is how important the Ark of the Covenant is. A lot of identity people are locating in the states of Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Are they unconsciously, subconsciously being drawn to those areas because somehow the Lord is telling them the Ark of the Covenant is there? These people would be considered the company of the Levites. Remember, in the encampment in the wilderness, the tabernacle was in the center with the Ark of the Testimony inside in the eastern portion of the tabernacle, and around it were the encampment of the Levites. We could say symbolically that the identity people who are living in Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma would indeed form a company of the Levites in these last days. As Jerry mentioned earlier, the Ark was always to go before the people. It was always to be in the midst of our people. And indeed, if it is in Arkansas, which I firmly believe it is, it would have gone before the people, before the mass migrations of our people. It would be in the midst of our people. And it will be a testimony against our people for having violated and forgotten his laws. Because remember what is inside the Ark of the Covenant, the tablets of the law. Also, we are told in 2 Maccabees 2:4 that the tabernacle in the wilderness and the altar of incense are also in that cave. I would put to you that because the blue veil is still over the Ark of the Covenant, and because a cave does contain a certain amount of air coming through, ventilating through, that there is electrostatic potential in that Ark of the Covenant. It is still operational. It makes a big difference. I would also offer for your information some research I did on the name Arkansas itself. The unsaw comes from a Hebrew word, nasah, meaning to contain, to hold. Does Arkansas mean Ark container? It seems pretty credible and pretty conclusive. How is the Ark of the Covenant going to be revealed to our people? We're told that there will be earthquakes in diverse places in these last days. The state of Arkansas is having tremors and more tremors like it has never had. Is it conceivable that at some point, at the end of this age, Mount Magazine will be subject to an earthquake, and voila, there is our heritage in the form of the Ark of the Covenant. I leave you with these ideas. I think to me, with the research that I have done pertaining to this subject, it is one of the most important, critical subjects in all of identity literature. We should know that we have the Ark of the Covenant in our midst. It is power. The enemy cannot defeat us. Remember what happened to the Philistines when they took the Ark of the Covenant. They wished they had never taken it. And their god, Dagon, in 1 Samuel 5, fell apart. Very humorous story. Reread it. The enemy, likewise, same thing is going to happen, because that statue of Dagon is rather symbolic of the enemies of our nation. And the Ark of the Covenant is there really ultimately to give us the undergirding to let us know that we will be the victors over our enemies. Thank you. Back to you, Gerald.